Hey guys, me again. I'm finally back with the tech video that I promised like 4 or 5 days ago when this is going up. But it should be good. Okay, so we're going to start with some of the more generic techs and work our way into some of the more specific ones, or like engine specific ones. But here are two that I found. Dynetherium, obviously, I talked about this in the ruling video, but you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon once per turn, so just a normal special summon restriction. When special, your opponent can target one level 4 players in either graveyard that targets, obviously does target and special summon it, but it does trigger the exosisters, right? So if your opponent moves a card out of the graveyard, because your opponent is targeting it, so it's all your opponents, so they get to trigger that. Other than that, another one is Diana the Light Spirit. This one I found personally to be a bit more gimmicky, but it is something that allows you to play under like Peekaboo. If you're worried about that, if you think that's going to be in the meta, you know, because it is a thunder monster, so you can go thunder, spellcaster, overlay into warrior. Like that. But just another interesting tech. Obviously, you've got your other techs like Gigabyte, Rain Ryu, and Arifaria, Nefarious Archfiend, Nefarious. You know, I just didn't feel like they were very interesting to talk about. So moving on, we will add. Let's see, what do we want to start with? We'll start with Time Thief Hack. The Time Thief package is pretty popular. Something like Time Thief Winder, which searches Time Thief spells traps. You've got like your flybacks, your you know, there are like a few other Time Thief traps, but an interesting one that I thought would be Time Thief Hack. Because it says during turn they are special summoned, exceeds monster you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and your opponent cannot target them with card effects. Compare this to something like Carpe Diem. I'll just activate both of these real quick. Neither player can target exorcism from monster you control with the effects of monster special summoned from the graveyard. This is a continuous effect, but it's from the graveyard. So like oftentimes it doesn't apply. And the only thing that really like is doing a lot of special summoning and targeting from the graveyard, I can't think of anything. Like DP is special summoning from the graveyard a lot, but it doesn't target, so it gives you the effect to declare an original card, negate that effects, and activate effects of that. You can also pop spells and traps with it. Versus like Time Thief Hack, can't be destroyed by card effects, and you can't target them. It's just, you know, an interesting one that I thought. Not great necessarily, probably like Flyback is better, but just something interesting to talk about. Just getting all the clutter out of the way. Next we'll talk about, I feel like talking about the Witchcrafters. So the Witchcrafters are a spellcaster series of monsters that have the effect that you can discard a spell and special summon a different Witchcrafter name, or at least the little ones. They're all 4 and below. I think there's a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1. Should be Shmeta, Jenny, Pottery, and Pitoir. But they all have this effect where you can tribute this card, discard one spell, special summon one, except the name. Shmeta can banish to send a Witchcrafter. Jenny banishes to copy a Witchcrafter spell in graveyard. And then Patar draws a card. I don't know what Pottery does. I didn't look at it too much. But the idea is that something like Witchcrafter Unveiling is a free special summon for a spellcaster monster. And it also gets you to level 4s very easily. And one of their bigger monsters, Madame Bear, I don't believe I put it in this, but you can discard a spell and it negates all monsters currently on the field. So I just want to talk about that. The other reason that I want to talk about it is something like Witchcrafter Adel is a special summon from hand, and it also gets you a tribute to special a spellcaster engrave. So you can special something back like the you know, like if the Irene or the Sophia or the Ellis was engraved. So it is a free level 4 if you do get to it and you have like, you know, a spell in hand and a Witchcrafter monster. Just something interesting. Finally, Witchcrafter Golem Aruru. This was actually, I think I first saw this on Golden Nova's channel, and I thought it was pretty good. But whenever your opponent activates a card effect that targets a spellcaster monster you control, or targets it for an attack, quick effect, you can target one card your opponent controls, or one Witchcrafter spell in your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, return that targeted card to the hand. You can only use this effect of Witchcrafter Golem once per turn. I personally thought this was very interesting because, as I have constantly said on this channel, a big weakness of exosisters is their weak stat lines. You know, we've got a 400, 500, 400, 800, like a 100, 800, and I believe Stella is like, what, 300? Yeah. Stella is a 300, 800. So none of these are very good stat lines, really, and so Witchcrafter Golem allows you to have some sort of protection, basically. Plus, it's recurring during your opponent's standby phase, return this card to the hand. So I think it's very interesting and very good. Also, just like it is a spellcaster, so you do have that link material in case you were making something like Selene. You know, so yeah, that out of the way, I believe that's all of my Witchcrafter cards. I'm going to be talking about some generic spellcaster stuff. No, not that one. I'll just add a lot of this. I'm just going to get all these exosister cards out of the deck just so that I can sort of get rid of. I'll talk about spellbooks a bit more in depth after this, actually, because I have something I want to talk about specifically with them. But something like Secret Village of the Spellcasters. If you control a spellcaster monster, your opponent cannot activate spell cards. If you control no spellcaster monsters, you cannot activate spell cards. First of all, obviously if you're playing the Eldritch version of the deck, you don't really need spell cards anyways, but, you know, these are spellcasters in case you do want to play some spells. You know, if you're playing more combo-y version and like you don't end on spellcasters, this may not be the best choice. It may be like a going first tech that you like. If you're playing against like Striker or something, and you're like, I'll just leave a Stella on the field, and then, you know, lock my opponent out of spellcasters. Also, something like Magician's Right Hand. Negate the first effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves each turn while you control a spellcaster monster. And if you do, it did not destroy that card. Pretty sure this doesn't activate, so that's pretty neat too. Just some good the generic spellcaster stuff. As you can see, a bit of lag there, but time to talk about. Oh, look at that! They were the top two cards too. The Spellbook of Fate. If you control a spellcaster monster, you can banish up to 3 spellbook cards from your graveyard. Apply this effect. Return a set spell trap to the hand. Book of Moon, or flip a monster, and you can banish a card. The reason I specifically was talking about this one is that this is an Outrue Dragoon specifically. So, you know, if you play like 3 Spellbook of Knowledge, 1 Spellbook of Fate, and maybe like 2 of the Blue Boy or something, you have a way to out Dragoon very easily. If you think like towers are going to be really popular, or like things like Dragoon where they like can't be targeted. Stuff like that, very good. Also, outs DP pretty well by banishing a singular card. So just an interesting tech. Another one is Knowledge. It's, I'd say, effectively a Lure of Darkness, because you just pitch like a Stella, and then you can draw 2 cards, 1 and 2. I don't really want to talk about Gozen, but Exosister is another one. If you all watched the Rulings video, you would know that this card has some interesting workings with Magnifica, but basically it's sort of pseudo removal. You just get to get rid of your opponent's monsters by attaching it to something as material. So if they controlled this Ellis, it would get stuck under the Magnifica. Just something interesting. Finally, we're going to talk about 2, 3. So Astraltopia, just a generic spellcast, or just a generic Xyz extender. If you're going to play like some of the Onomat stuff, maybe you want to play this as well. I don't think I played it in my build. That might have been an oversight, but yeah. So we'll talk about that. That's just, you know, just another extender. Forgot to mention it earlier. Trismegius is just a special summon of a level 4 spellcaster. All of these are level 4 spellcasters. If you're playing the Magistus package, probably worthwhile. you can only use one of the effects, so you can't, special summon one and special summon like a Magistus, like the Zoroa from hand. And finally, rank up magic, Astral Force. This is for something like Utopia Beyond and Mikolas. Mikolas is the example. All of them are light level 4 warriors, or rank 4 warriors. So you can go, if you control one of these, you can then overlay into Utopia Beyond. Attack of all monsters your opponent controls currently becomes 0. Maybe useful for OTKs, just like getting over tricky monsters, stuff like that. It does have this restriction, or no, it doesn't. See this restriction right here. I'm pretty sure this is only for this one right here. So yeah, maybe there's like a way to play Astraltopia and then add a. Actually, yeah, no, it doesn't add. Well, that's unfortunate. I thought Astraltopia could add this. It does not. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, I don't think I put it in this deck, but Armament and Skill Drain. If you play Skill Drain and you have Armament, you can Skill Drain and like activate Armament. And like if you have like say you already used your Exosister effects and you already overlaid into Mika, you could then flip Skill Drain, activate Mika effect, chain Armament, and Mikolas will resolve because it's no longer on the field. It'll be attached to whatever Exosister monster you summon. Now time to talk about some of the extra deck techs. This is where Gozen comes up. As many of you see, I play Nightmare Unicorn in my my build for the Exosisters. You could play Selene if you wanted to. Again, all of these are spellcasters, so there's that. Plus, it allows you to play into Gozen match. That being said, I couldn't think of any like light link 4s that I thought of that were good. I might be able to look at something. I'm not going to claim to be perfect on that one. But yeah, so that's why I was just like, I'm gonna have to get rid of like my light lock eventually, and I think I'd rather just have the value that I can get off of Unicorn in that scenario. I've already talked about Utopia Beyond, so I'm gonna skip over that one. Magnifica is obviously interesting, but there's not a lot to talk about. I think it's a good replacement for UDF, honestly. I might not play UDF post-defo. We've got the Zoroa, an interesting Magistus tech. We're going to be talking about our other Magistus cards, which is Ninaru and Rilona. So Rilona is probably better in something like the Witchcrafter deck, right? Because all of these are light attribute, so you're not going to be able to make 2 spellcaster monsters with different attributes. So yeah, it does also give you a negate if you really need it. But it has to be equipped to a Magistus monster, and if you're doing that, you're like missing out on like maybe it's also not a quick effect, so there's that as well. It's not a quick effect. You're missing out on like maybe a different type floodgate if you're playing like a Zoroa, right? Because this is a super type floodgate. It is good as an Xyz floodgate if your opponent is playing like an Xyz deck. So there's that. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Naru, 2 level 4 spellcaster monsters. Useful in the sort of the Magistus decks as an Xyz floodgate, and it also gives your Zoroa 2 attacks in case you really need that. You can detach 1 material, add a spellcaster monster. It just gives you some recursion if you need it. Also some semi-removal if you really need like spell and trap removal badly. Not necessarily great, but an interesting tech in the Magistus variant. Might be worth playing if you're going to play like the even if you're not playing Magistus and you really need like some spell and trap removal, you don't have like Tornado Dragon or something, might be worthwhile. Obviously Zoroa, super type floodgate, and it allows you to special summon some recursion, so it's pretty good honestly. If you can get like a bunch of equipped spells on it, it can be kind of hard to out, but I doubt that'll happen. Talking about Link monsters again, Mega Clops, 3 Xyz monsters, so kind of hard to make honestly. Definitely worthwhile if you like need a tech slot. It can just kind of be annoying sometimes. Unaffected by other monsters' effects except those of Xyz monsters. So it's a towers except for Xyz monsters. Cannot be destroyed by battle except with an Xyz monster. So it can be really hard to out if they don't have like a spell that negates, which, you know, droplets is a card. Target an Xyz monster in your graveyard and one card your opponent controls. Special summon that monster from your graveyard, and if you do, attach that card to it as material. So yeah, it obviously has damage, basically Pot of Prosperity, but you can like special summon back your Mikalace and attach material. Obviously, once Magnificent comes out, you could do that, but as I talked about in the rulings video, check that out. Should be coming out probably yesterday at the time that this is going up. You can't activate Magnifica if you can't return to the extra deck. So that's all there is to that. Interesting tech, definitely worthwhile. This is an OCG card, so not really much to talk about, but it special summons a light monster from the hand, and that's about it. Gaga Magician, really useful for utopic Draco future setups. You know, it can also make your monster bigger if you need to, I suppose. And then finally, my last two texts that are like, I probably should have mentioned this, but these are texts that are really only unique to Exosisters. There's a lot of like other texts that you can probably play that are interesting, but I just thought they weren't unique, and you'd probably already heard of them. Alchemic Magician, 3 level 4 spellcaster type monsters. This card gains 2 attack for each spellcaster or spell card in the graveyard. During your end phase, you can attach one material, send one card from your hand to the graveyard, and then set a spell and trap card. So right, if you have like in the what's it called? Where is it? Spell. Yes. So the Witchcrafter spells, they add themselves to hand at the end phase. So if you haven't used like a Witchcrafter spell, that's why I think that's the variant that I think is probably best in the Witchcrafter variant, because that allows you to turbo out level 4 monsters. But it allows you to like set spells back. So if you wanted, you could set like a Bodice or a Pax, or not a Bodice, an Armament or a Pax. So like you could end phase, if you haven't used the effect, you can discard it then, and then set your where is Pax? Right, and so it's just a way to get interesting recursion and sort of like mesh the two engines better. Also, it can get really, really big if your opponent doesn't have a way to get rid of it. It can get to be kind of annoying. But yeah, it's just an interesting card. Thought it was worth talking about. Before Mage, Trapeze Magician. This guy is pretty good actually. Used to see play a lot in like Pepe, 2 level 4 spellcaster type monsters. You never take damage if if the amount is equal to or less than this card's attack. Pretty good. Once per turn during either player's main phase 1, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, then target one face-up attack position monster the turn player controls other than this card. It can make a second attack, but also destroy it at the end of the battle phase. So yeah. If this card is destroyed by battle, you can special summon one Perform Mage monster from the deck. So if you're playing like a Perform Mage engine, this might be good in it by itself, but it also allows you to make a second attack, and you won't take damage if you're taking if they're trying to burn you. So you know, I've seen burn being popular on DB ladder. I don't know how well that reflects on like locals, YCS, regionals level events, but you know, it's just an interesting one. So those are a bunch of the texts that I want to talk about. Thought they were all interesting. Damn, I can't believe this actually was 20 minutes. Yeah, if you guys want more of this, I can make a more generic tech video. I'll probably make a part 2 once I think of more. But yeah, that's all that I have. Have a great day.